I do not have a proper YouTube channel. I am sick. I am just doing this in one take. Basically, I just wanted to respond to this video on that's people have been talking about a lot. This was recently posted onto YouTube, and it's two guys basically explaining why they have problems with female protagonist and her route in Persona 3 Portable. I don't mind videos like this. I actually think they're kind of interesting because it usually allows someone to explain their point of view, even if you disagree with them. There's one that was really well done for Follow 3, and I think it's called Why Follow 3 is Garbage, and Here's Why. And even though it sounds like it definitely wants people to click on it to start a fight, but the actual video is very, very well done. And it talks about like a lot of the culture around Fallout 3, how it kind of became representative for Fallout as a whole, and I don't know, it was just very, very well done. And even though I still disagree, because Fallout 3 is one of my favorite games, I just have so much fun playing it, and I got so invested in it. But I also totally understand why this person just resents it and just doesn't think it's that good of a game. Like, I don't know, I just thought it was so well done, so I like videos like this. So I went into it wanting to watch it all because I feel like a lot of people haven't, and then they just use it to talk about their own opinion, but I wanted to actually watch the video and see what they're actually saying. And I was very disappointed. I expected too much. This was very poorly done, and their arguments are very weak and have very little logic. Especially this one stuck out to me the most. They've tried to make this point about how the male protagonist is better for Persona 3's narrative because he represents he more represents the kind of people who are gonna be playing this game. And they describe the male character as looking emo, not having much friends, being closed off. Okay, so that's what you're saying about the people that you think are playing this game, that they're essentially losers who are sad and can't express their emotions. That's what you're saying? So what, I just think that's complete bullshit, and I don't think it's accurate at all, because obviously they're wrong about the audience. And second of all, they make this whole stink later in the video about how people who prefer the female protagonist, or a majority, you know, they literally like mock them, where they say, "Oh, you know, I am so the female protagonist. I am so femme MC, haha," and they're like, "This is awful. That's so stupid." That's literally what they're saying with the male protagonist, and why they're saying he's better. That's their logic. So it's fine when the male character is designed for the audience to live through, the male audience, which is what they think. But when these women, girls, whoever, I know guys who prefer the female row, so it's not just women, but when people relate to the female protagonist, that's wrong. So I feel like a lot of their points just really, really fall through. And they also make this point about how having a more positive and expressive protagonist messes with the dark themes of the game. And again, I think that's bullshit. Because when you play Persona 3, so much about it is, the game's mechanics rely on you making these important bonds. You know, that's how you become more powerful. And all these bonds, even though they deal with, trauma, with loss, with having to move on, they also deal, you're going on coffee dates, you're playing arcade games, you're making jokes, you're flirting, you're trying to still be a high school student when all of this is going on. You're going on school trips. Like, I feel like people who make this argument focus on the depths in the game. But then they forget that the game is also about life. and how you affect people. And I feel like when you have a more expressive, emotional, uh, happy character, it fits so much better with that because you really kind of get that duality. And as the game goes on, with the female protagonist, her choices do get more serious. And I also like seeing that progression where, you have a character who, she's colorful, she looks very cute, a lot of her choices do rely on trying to stay positive, trying to just go for things, and you kind of see that break down as the game goes on. And I think that actually makes the game darker. A dark game does not necessitate a dark protagonist, and I think it's more heartbreaking to watch a character who's trying to keep this happy facade and ultimately really fails because of the events of the game. I don't know. I just feel like that fits the game's theme so much more. And I feel like you just get so much more out of it. Not to mention that I don't know why guys aren't more upset about the original Persona 3. Because it literally deems the male half of your team as less important than the girls that you can potentially romance. Like, how are you not more mad about that? If in the female route, if I could only have social links with the male half of my team, I don't think I would even play it. Because to me, that's an unfinished game. Like, why? It doesn't make any sense. Because, I don't know. To me, I just have such a big problem with that. And it also kind of just makes the only relationships that are important the ones that you can romance. And I get so frustrated because I also see people go on about how Persona 3 Portable, the female route, is just pure fan service so girls can romance the guys. Here's the thing. You can go through the female route without romancing anyone. People are still going to flirt with you. People are still going to comment that you're cute. You can always choose to end the relationships platonically and keep them platonic, which I love. I love that you don't have to romance all these people in order to max out their social links, because I think that's fucking stupid. And I hate that they also did that in Persona 4. Well, they didn't, but they do guilt trip you, because the female characters are not fucking happy that you're turning them down. And it frustrated me so much. So I don't understand why people say, oh, it's pure fan service, when one, you can literally put a stop to that. Two, what does that make the original game with the male protagonist? When literally a lot of these social links are basically fan service. If that's your logic, then you're saying that that's also fan service. Like, you literally can't have social links with the male characters because they're not romance options. And again, that's fucking stupid. And you miss out on so much. Like, excuse my nose, like I said, I'm not feeling well. In that video, the guys argue, they do enjoy some of the social links, but they do say, like, it's a mixed bag. And I get that, because I don't expect everyone to enjoy every single social link. Like, that's just not how the game's gonna work. Same with the guys version. Like, no. None of the Persona games, you're not gonna enjoy every single one. I did like all the social links in the female protagonist route, but some were just, I wanted to kind of get them over with, rather than, like, I am so invested in them. But social links are such an important part of the game, and to me, just not having them for some of the main characters, that's such an oversight, and you do miss out on so much. So even if you play and you're just like, I didn't really like, or I didn't get that much more out of Akihiko's route, they should still fucking be there. Like, you should still have the option to develop your relationship with that character more. So even if they don't become your favorite, that doesn't mean, like, that they shouldn't be there in the first place. I don't know. And I think, they really overlooked Junpei's route. They were like, I didn't feel that much closer to him. But there's so much more development that goes on with Junpei, and I think that adds so much more to his narrative, especially with Chidori and everything. I don't know, I just think it's so important. And it really relies on the protagonist being female. You know, Yukari, Fuka, Mitsuru, they all acknowledge that it's very important to them to have like a female figure that they can look up to and rely on, and they just feel more comfortable with you as a female. And I think that's just so nice. It also kind of makes Aigis more interesting because not only are you developing a friendship and she's kind of learning how to be a girl from you, she's also still struggling with these romantic feelings, and she recognizes that, you know, a lot of the couples she sees are a guy and a girl. And I just think that, again, it's just another layer that you can explore, and I think that's just so cool. It's also nice that with the female protagonist, she's bisexual. Like, you literally, if you choose Elizabeth as your assistant and you make the right dialogue choices with Aigis, she is bisexual, though Elizabeth is not a social link, but you know what I mean. Again, I just think that's so cool. It's just like another thing that's nice to have in a Persona game. I'm trying to think what I was talking about, but yeah, I just find with a lot of social links, Akihiko's too, I like that because the protagonist is female, Akihiko also has to kind of sort out, you know, seeing you as like a sister or a friend or as a girlfriend. And I just think it's nice, again, to have that extra layer. And I like that the protagonist's gender is done so well in this game. You know, like, it has all these effects on these social links, but it still doesn't really affect her as a character. That's another thing I have a problem with. People make such a big stink about the protagonist's gender when they're still relatively empty husks. Like, yeah, the dialogue is changed, but they're still like, you're still projecting onto them. Like, whether you're role playing or whether you're playing them as yourself, like, you are putting so much into the character. So when people, you know, people go on and on about like how it's like the characters' personalities fit the things more, I also kind of call bullshit on that, because yeah, there's definitely a base personality, which I kind of like. I like that there is like a differing base personality for these characters, because it makes you want to play both routes. It's still a small change though, and I just think it's not enough to really alter the game. I think it's more how they kind of deal with the character being female and her social links and stuff that has a more impact, but not really her base personality. I don't know. But you know, if people do want to use that as an argument, again, I do think whatever base personality there is with the female character, I think that and her different dialogue help with the game's themes. I do think they suit, like I said earlier, I do think it suits the game more, but also there's still not that much to do with. So again, I don't think there's that much to add. But of course, people also bring up the whole Shinjiro thing with the female route. I understand why people have a problem with this, because a big thing is the permanency of death. And to have a character basically survive because of a plot point in your social link with them can feel cheap. Like, I get why people don't like this, and I get why people find his funeral scene much more impactful. I never really had a problem with the coma thing because, one, he can still die. I think if they took out the option or the consequence of him dying completely, I think I would have a much bigger problem with it. But because I feel like you have to follow a walkthrough to make sure that you don't screw up Shinji's social link and max it out and get the watch and all that. I feel like a lot of players, if you weren't following a walkthrough, you would very easily mess it up, and you could see him die, and it would suck. So I still like that it's a consequence, it's still there. It's just that now there's the option for him to be in a coma. And people might ask, like, why? Well, what's the point? I actually think it's a good choice because closure isn't always readily available, With the death, you have to face it at some point or another, not only for yourself, but when someone else dies. Like, you can't shun it. It's a reality you have to face, as Persona 3 kind of repeats over and over. But with Shinji, Akihiko's in a hospital room, yelling at his face to wake up, and he's trying to have a conversation with someone who's there but isn't. I think that's also very impactful. Again, I understand why people may just see, like, it's just not like him dying. And it isn't. It isn't like the character dying, but I still think it fits with the game's themes overall. I don't think it ruins it, because it's still the characters trying to move on, but it frustrates it. And you really see that. I don't know. I just think it kind of adds a complication to the themes that works for it rather than ruins it. But of course, people aren't always going to agree with that. So when people have a gripe with this, I understand. But that's why I never had a problem with it. And with Chidori, the guys in the video, they were like, it's not like she's a main character, so it didn't bother them as much. I'd also like, she can still die in the game. It's still these like specific requirements that you have to do. You have to talk to Junpei on the right days. You have to talk to him every single time for this to work, for Chidori to come back to life. But it's still a scene of loss, And again, I like that because it complicates the whole life and death thing, because it's not just about life and death. It's what happens in between, and that there's kind of a state in between. So with Shinji and Chidori, especially with Chidori, all the characters are crying. They're crying tears of joy and relief, but there's still that sense of loss because she does remember Junpei, and he's still gonna have to let her go because of that. I don't know. I just think those two variations, because there's still consequences, and because their ultimate fates still fit into what the game is trying to say as a whole, I never really had a problem with that. And I kind of like that, while there's still consequences, there's still, I don't know, they just kind of give you another option that can kind of create more dialogue about the game, which obviously it is, because people are still talking about these changes. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else they said, but I feel like that was kind of the biggest. Oh, one thing they mentioned was Chidori stops you from getting closer to Junpei. I think that kind of represents why I have a problem with these guys, and I think what kind of shapes their view, because I feel like they're implying because he already has a love interest, you can't get closer to him as a female, and that's not how it works. He's a platonic. He can become your best friend, and that's all that he needs to be. That's just as important as if he was a love interest. Like, I don't understand their logic that because he's in love with Chidori, you can't be as close, With the female route, that's another thing I really like, is that there's, you can decide whether all these important bonds are friendship or if they're love, or I don't know. I just feel like the complexity of bonds are done so much better because they don't rely on, if you're a male, you automatically don't matter as much, and if you're female, it can only end in romance. I hate that binary. I just think it's so cheap and lazy. So for me, I like that Junpei's still in love with Chidori, and I like that it's your friendship and your experiences with Junpei that move your social link forward. And Junpei is just such a well done and well written character, and I feel like having him as a romance option would have cheapened it. They did have in the New Game Plus that there would be an ending scene instead of Aigis where Junpei realizes he was in love with you, and they cut it, and I think that was one of the smartest decisions that they made, because his social link is not about, you know, possibly romancing him. It's about him developing into a better person and dealing with sexism and dealing with his this weird inferiority complex so that he can be a better person and become the person that Chidori falls in love with. Anyway, so that's my thoughts. Oh wait, also the whole answer. I hate the answer. I'm sorry. No one will ever convince me otherwise. I just think all the characters are. I don't know. I feel like it just felt like it was written by a completely different team. I didn't get anything out of it, and I don't know. I didn't like. I just didn't like it at all. I can't think of anything that I actually got out of it, and it's not just because it's a male protagonist. Because I could just take it for like myself. I could just take it and apply it to the female protagonist myself, but like. I do not want to, because I just think it's stupid and a waste of time. And, you know, I also don't understand why they don't have a problem with this whole thing being tacked on, where you have Elizabeth on this constant quest to bring the male protagonist back, and now he's turned more into, like, this gatekeeper symbol, rather than just having him fucking dead. Like, how does that not mess with the themes? Because why? It's like a sequel, so that doesn't really count. I don't know. I don't understand why they don't have a problem with that. But then all these little changes in the female route, no, that ruins the game's themes. Again, I call bullshit, because I'm sorry. I just had a lot of problems with this video, and I kind of wanted to go in and just have people talk more recently about the male-female protagonist, because I don't really, again, it doesn't really matter to me, and the only reason I kind of get defensive of the female protagonist is because she gets a lot of shit that I think is completely unwarranted, and because I just feel like a lot of people's arguments are very illogical. But anyway, so yeah. Oh god, I keep forgetting. They talked about so much things. This is going to be my last point. That's it. They also made a big stink about how people, you know, they keep wanting a gay protagonist, and they keep wanting a female protagonist in the Persona series, and people should just stop whining. Why? Well, I don't understand the problem with that, because why not? Like, if you're going to have a protagonist that's really kind of just going to be an empty husk that the player can occupy, that has just like kind of a base narrative and personality that you can tweak as you go through the game, why not have a character that has queer options? Why not have a character who is default female? You know, instead of always relying, you know, we only had 2 female protagonists, and they are occupying a game that was originally released with a male protagonist. I don't know. I understand why people want it, because we're getting the same protagonist kind of over and over with just a kind of different personality. Why not change it up? You know, that actually might be exciting. It might be kind of fresh. I just don't understand the problem with it. I understand when people get frustrated when they automatically think something is better because it has a female or gay protagonist, because that's not how it works. Something is not automatically good because it talks or represents or deals with, I don't know, gender or sexuality issues. Kanji in Persona 4. That was an awful, I don't know why I did like a kind of puke noise. Yeah, that's another thing I could go on with, was like how Persona 4 failed so bad with like trying to talk about gender, sexuality. But again, that's another video, and yeah, I get why people would get frustrated with that, but you know what? I'm fucking calling Atlas out. One, Atlas, stop trying to make things canon when you have no sense of an established canon. You're always changing your mind. I don't think they keep tabs on anything. So yeah, I just, when it comes to canon, Atlas, stop trying to establish one, because you keep trying and you keep contradicting yourself. Let it go. It's fine. You don't need one. And also Atlas, yeah, let's change it up. You know what? People are gonna always complain and stuff, but just go for it. You know, in some of the original concept art for Persona 3, there was a female character. You know, why didn't you go with that? I don't know. Just let me know. I'm interested. Why not in the next Persona game have a female protagonist? Or have a character who has gay options? Or have a female protagonist that has gay options? Like the Persona 3 portable female protagonist, you know? Do it again. Flesh it out more. Have some more options. Live your life. Anyway, so that's all I gotta say. Yeah, most of the arguments were bullshit. They're totally biased. I'm definitely biased as well, but I feel like they're trying to operate on like this intellectual pedestal. They're not on it. There is none. Anyway, so yeah, that's my counter arguments, and the answer sucks, and yeah, bye!